その土地を宇宙の塵にしてくれる。
There are few things more climactic in anime than a fight where the heroes band together in order to defeat an overpowered character. Yeah, some people find some of it cheesy these days, but I'm still a sucker for these kinds of fights. There's something magical about an overpowered villain getting pushed to the edge or outright falling to the might of weaker characters working together, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Here are my favorite moments in anime where people work together to take down an overpowered foe, and I'll give some rundown on why they're part of my favorites. And while you sit back and prepare for the list, isn't it time to get some refreshments to keep you company? Luckily, I've got the perfect deal for you. Introducing today's video sponsor, a double header featuring Tokyo Treat and Sakurako. Tokyo Treat and Sakurako are subscription-based snack boxes that serve to provide the most authentic experience you can have as far as Japanese sweets are concerned. This month is the best month to start getting both of these boxes, as these guys have been working overtime in cooking up the best sweets and snacks for this month's exciting themes. For Tokyo Treat, you get to experience the Japanese tradition of tsukimi, which is translated as moon viewing. Just like Hanami, tsukimi has remained a staple and unique festival to Japan. Tokyo Treat looks to bring that experience to you with this month's box featuring this rare flavor of Kit Kat, Pon crackers, and loads more. Sakurako, meanwhile, has its own take on the event, partnering with the Kyoto government to bring us a box filled with joy. I'm talking snacks that pair perfectly with Japan's signature drink, green tea. You get Kyoto candy, Kyoto Hojicha latte pudding, and crackers, all pair excellently with Gion Sujiri Hojicha tea. A perfect blend of sweet, smoky goodness awaits. So, check out the link in the description box and use code VINI to get $5 off your first box. I guarantee you won't regret spending a cent on this super good deal. Our first boss fight is the battle against Oken. I just can't gush hard enough about how Ranking of Kings is one of the best underdog stories we've seen in modern anime. It's got that childish art style that turned people off, but the journey's definitely more than worth it. It's one of the best not just in the past year or two, but as far as the previous decade goes. Wonder if that's a hot take, but I think that if we're going to look at things from the critics' lens, that statement does hold up. And something as great as it deserves no less than an epic confrontation amongst the immortal Oken. Oken made an impact here, defeating everything in his path to Miranjo's side. That path of destruction continued against the main characters, with him overcoming Boji and the rest of his opponents due to his immortality. It's pretty insane. The guy's body just won't go, and it took Boss's creativity to finally put Oken's rampage down for good. I started with this fight because while it's a great fight and an amazing show, the conclusion doesn't feel as grand as a lot of the others we'll be seeing later on this list. One such example is the Gitia fight. We're talking about an everyone versus Gitia fight. There are many instances of such in FGO Solomon movie, technically speaking that is, but the finale was mostly Fujimaru switching servants, so I think it's more appropriate to feature the one that came beforehand, even if it didn't get the job done. How would you say no to Nero's big entrance along with many servants coming in one by one, attacking the immortal Gitia? As someone who's a fan of the game, it was more than a treat seeing these servants all throw their attacks at Gitia while probably the best background music in the FGO anime plays in the background. It's like going through a best of list as everyone gets their 5 seconds of fame and Gitia actually takes the offense. He ends this particular fight with a rather anticlimactic Thanos snap, but it just makes the next mob fight, the one starring Fujimaru, all the more rewarding. The Altai fight in Recreators episode 20 is something similar. This fight, compared to the previous one, is similar in a sense that it's part Altai showing off her superiority like Gitia. As we head towards the climax of Recreators, we get a treat in the form of an episode-long fight where it's pretty much everyone giving their all at Altai and it not even mattering in the end. In spite of the realization that Altai has become the strongest being in the universe, the protagonists do soldier on, and a lot of them go down in a blaze of glory. Even the heralded trump card Sirius doesn't get the job done, as Sirius only became a vessel for Altai to control. This fight was a fight that kept me on the edge of my seat because I legit can't think of any way Altai could be defeated after seeing everything. This is yet another example of a fight that's unwinnable in the conventional way. Like Oken was defeated by ingenuity, it would take something more than direct fighting to put a stop to Altai. We de-escalate a bit with Princess Connect Golem fight. Actually, de-escalate could be a misnomer, however. This may not be a final boss of any sort like the previous entries, but it doesn't mean that it's any less intense or epic. The Golem fight happens somewhere in the middle of the second season, and this is around the time that things get real for Princess Connect. This arc marks the shift in tone where the serious plot comes in and Yuki's backstory gets revealed, and barring a relatively light-hearted episode or two, the show never lets go of the momentum it established with this fight. This is pretty much a standard arc finale, where the characters get to show their attacks as they take on an army of foes flanking the gigantic boss, showing off the signature moves I've grown up to love from playing the game. It helps that the fight is really high stakes compared to everything we've seen so far, and it all comes to a crescendo with Pekarine's return and an epic instrumental rendition of the opening theme. Up next is the fight against the medium in Magi. Here's a party. With the fights we've taken a look so far, this is by far the one with the most participants. Talk about all the nations of the world banding together to fight the strongest, most unkillable thing the series has ever seen in the span of multiple episodes. The fight is quite the epic way to close out the second season of Magi, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is the most climactic fight in the entire series, and it's appropriate that we saw so many Jin equips. The participants just keep adding up one by one until Sinbad brings the last batch of people, including powerful rulers we haven't met before. Ironically, the fight ends just as the last remaining named combatants, Hakuryu and Judah, arrive at the scene, albeit in a non-fighting role. If there is a gripe though, it's that this fight just took way too long. Fighting the medium took around 3 to 4 episodes, but the showcases of power we saw, mainly from the Cult Empire, more than makes up for it. Anyone else feel cheated when SAO's Ironclad arc ended rather prematurely? What was supposed to be a trudge to the top never came to pass, as Kirito ended up clearing the game after a one-on-one fight with the Game Master Heathcliff. There was supposed to be this big showdown awaiting our heroes at the top, and we never got to see it. Well, Ordinal Scale fixed it by giving us the showdown that we deserved, and after seeing what this thing was capable of, I guess the characters should be glad they never got to face it. An incarnate of the Radius is one of the most overpowered boss designs possible for a game like SAO. Invulnerability and an insane healing ability. It took Kirito and gang, as well as the health of players they met from every game they played to that point, as well as Arsuna's shot calling and their ultimate sword skills to get this job done. It's very tough, but boy, does the sequence feel rewarding when the dust has finally settled. I watched Ordinal Scale during the premiere, and the electricity I felt inside the theater when the fight took place is a testament to how big of a deal this was to SAO fans. It's all fans could ask for, wrapped up in one package for a final fight. With how overpowered Incarnate of the Radius was, at least the good guys were able to defeat it straight up. That's not the case for Aizen. Things were going too well for the protagonist in the fake Garakura town arc. Despite being billed as an all-out war between the Shinigami and the Arrancar, the body count does tell a different story. Yeah, circumstances were at play, but the Shinigami pretty much almost swept through the opposition, suffering practically 0 losses barring a fight or two. Meanwhile, the Espada and the Arrancar all lose their fights one by one, until it's Aizen versus the captains and the Vizards. When Aizen steps up, the war takes a completely different complexion, and he wastes no time establishing superiority. He quickly makes short work of multiple captains, one-shotting them, including probably his personal jobber, Gormamura. But the captains and Shinji band together and come up with a pretty creative strategy, pooling their attacks together in a synergistic game plan to finally get a decisive stab on Aizen. Poetic justice, considering it's Toshiro delivering the final blow, but of course it doesn't work, and Aizen pulls off the ultimate trolling before one-shotting everyone. Poor Momo, but I won't say I didn't expect this. Did anyone actually think that they were going to be Aizen without Ichigo's involvement? Still, the fight itself versus Aizen is pretty cool, and I'm pretty impressed with how the Shinigami combine their powers together here. Why don't we push things up further with another crazy overpowered antagonist in Utsuro. No, this placement isn't a way for me to start power level debates between Utsuro and Aizen, but if you want to go ahead and discuss that, then please go ahead. However, I want to put these overpowered final bosses next to each other because why not? And while Utsuro may not have gone through the same one-shot spree as Aizen did, the fight against him feels even more epic. Fights like this are what we really live for. Friends and foes of the past coming together, sharing a common foe that they have to work hard to defeat. This battle also brought a lot of previous plot threads to a close. Everyone can think of different moments as the best highlight highlight in this sequence. I like Gintoki getting such a good showing, but I think that Gamui fighting alongside everyone is a strong contender for my favorite moment here, especially after everything he's been through. The hard-earned victory at the end is the icing on the cake for such an epic climax. Then we have Madara. Of course, Madara is here to join the fun. We've already seen Madara solo an entire squad, and we've seen him beat the Kages without breaking a sweat. So, we're off to a good start here, and one has to wonder how Naruto and team would fare against someone like Madara. Even with the tailed beasts at their side, Naruto and Sasuke still come within inches of death against Madara. Sure, they pulled off a good showing, but it's really just a glorified showcase of power for the Naruto universe's most broken character ever. Still, it's really fun to see the actual fight, to see the tailed beast fight, Kakashi and Obito working together, and everyone doing their part, no matter how ineffectual it all ended up being. I'm not sure if this will find its place as my top 3 or so favorite fights in Naruto with how many great fights there are, but if it comes to the category of many versus one fights, this has to be one of the most epic ones that the series has given us. Finishing the list is the fight against Father. How's this to finish our run of overpowered final antagonists? In the world of Full Metal Alchemist, no one comes close to Father. He's by far the most powerful character, being a virtual god at the point of this final battle. And that's just what makes this final battle so good, seeing him fall to the combined might of the supposed weakest beings, humans. And it's not like everyone became fodder against this overpowered last boss. Everyone gets their hits in, but it's still not enough. After all, no matter what we do, there's just no way us weaklings can defeat a god, right? And the way the show gave that statement a resounding no is nothing short of inspirational. He gets worn down bit by bit, and Ed laying into him at the end was so satisfying on all levels. Sure, it's not just the protagonist that did Father in. Even taking that into account, seeing Father make mistakes and fall does give us a great message that there's no one infallible in this world. It may not be as full of fireworks and effects like, say, the Magi fight, but in terms of themes and messages, this one's by far one of the best fights I could put on the list. Any other favourite fights that you have in mind then? As usual, you can comment away and let me know about some of the other great fights that people feature teaming up against an overpowered character. If you had fun and want more, then why don't you check out the channel and my other channel, ViniiTube Kai. Hop onto the channel's Discord server and other forms of social media while you're at it too. There'll be more anime videos to come where I share some of my favourite moments or characters, as well as seasonal reviews and previews. So make sure you stay tuned. But that's it for now, however. I'll be taking my leave, and I'll see you again in the next one.